Hey guys, it's Kevin in my review for Monster Hunter. What Monster Hunter is essentially about is we center on the character of Natalie Artemis, and she is this Army Ranger captain. She's basically part of this like elite military force and things like that. And so one day while they're on the trail, they fall into this portal which is populated by like these giant monsters, and a situation happens and Artemis finds herself alone. But basically she ends up seeking help from this hunter played by Tony Jaa, who basically decides to help her and her entire team survive in the world and hopefully get away from the monsters and get back home when they can. So Monster Hunter overall, I was very much not looking forward to this. This film just looks so stupid. This looks like the kind of film that normally would come out in like January under normal circumstances, or maybe even like a VOD type film. This did not seem like something that really anyone was asking for, but you know what? It's like one of the only major releases left. In fact, it is one of the last like big major release left, obviously besides Wonder Woman, but that's on HBO Max now, so like I don't really know if that counts anymore. It's like one of the only big major releases left. So I did see it. Full disclosure, I have not seen any other Paul W.S. Anderson film coming into this. I've heard a lot of things about him, and after watching this movie, yeah, I can see why, because it's pretty bad. Monster Hunter is a really dumb action film. There are a lot of things about this movie that just do not work at all. It's mindless, it's just bonkers, and not in the way that I really want it to be. We're just getting to right now, starting off with the cast. And right off the bat, that definitely does leave a lot to be desired here. It's clear that this film is not trying to be anything high art right off the bat, and I recognize that. I do, but the performances in this movie, most of them at least, just really are not that good. Let's talk about Milla Jovovich, for example. Yes, she's good at kicking ass. Yes, she is good at being an action hero, but quoting dialogue, she's not very good. She's really not very good. The second that she starts opening her mouth, the second that she has to elicit any sort of emotion, it's just very unconvincing. It just feels very phony and forced. And again, I've heard people say for years, like, the only reason he puts her in these movies is because she's his wife, and it clearly feels that way. Like, it feels like there is really no reason for her to be here. She's very obviously miscast. There's someone else they clearly could have gotten to make this role better, and it just really doesn't work. I don't like her in this role. I don't think that she was very good here. She was just very flat overall, and like I said, when she's like doing action sequences, she's good at it, but anytime she has to do anything else besides just like fighting monsters, it's just very unconvincing, and I really just did not like her in this film. I can definitely see why people have criticized her so much over the years, and I know that she's like said that she like has fun with it, and that's fine, but like, just for me, I just really wish that he would change things up, and obviously he didn't, so that really sucks. But I will say the bright spot of this movie for me is Tony Jaa, who I actually really did like. He plays this character of the hunter, and he's actually a lot of fun. A lot of this movie he is not speaking the same language, well, the whole movie actually, he's not speaking the same language as Milla Jovovich, but unlike Jovovich, you're really convinced by him. You understand that he's someone that is well equipped with what he's doing. He's far more prepared for this whole thing, and I think he did a good job, but he also provides some nice comic relief to the film, which I actually really did appreciate a lot. The bonding between him and Milla Jovovich is easily the strongest point of the movie. There's a lot of moments in this film where, he can't tell what she's saying, and I just thought overall, he was definitely really good in this role. I enjoyed him a lot. I kind of wish the movie followed him more than it did Jovovich, because I thought he was doing a really good job, and I was very impressed by his role here. And Ron Perlman isn't bad here either. He's not in the movie all that much, but when he shows up, he's pretty good. Like, you can tell he's having fun. You can tell that he's making an effort to, do as much with this performance as he really can, even if there really isn't a lot that he can do. He really is doing what he can to make this work, and I didn't think that he was bad in the movie, so, like, I think those two performances are good. Everyone else, though, no. Everyone else here is, like, really bad, especially when it comes to Milla Milla Jovovich's crew, like T.I. and Diego Boneta and Meagan Good and Josh Helman. I mean, these guys could not be half-assing it more than they are in this movie. I mean, there's just nothing about what they're doing seems like they want to be here. It really just felt like they needed some big stars in this movie, so they recruited them, and they really just didn't bring anything interesting to the table, and it very much does show. Just the cast overall, clearly this is not a film that is trying to focus very much on acting, and so because of that, we have just a lot of actors that some of them are admittedly good, but a lot of them very much feel throwaway and not really doing much of anything to leave an impression. But now let's get to the directing and the writing here, because here we get to the things that really do hurt this film. And again, like I said, I haven't seen any other Paul W.S. Anderson films, but I can definitely see what people are talking about when it comes to the directing, because his directing here is atrocious. It really is. I mean, in terms of a tone, this film is so uneven. It doesn't really seem to know what it wants to be. Is it trying to be a sci-fi film? Is it trying to be an action film? Is it trying to be a horror film? It really doesn't seem to know. And I don't think Anderson did a very good job with having any real focus in this movie. It felt like he just wanted to like make something, so he just kind of did whatever the fuck he wanted, and it really does show, because it just doesn't feel like there's any real effort put into this. And again, I mean, it seems like that's what he likes to do, so whatever, I guess. You know, just half-ass it, and there you go. There really is not a lot of effort put into him director-wise, and I know that's what people are expecting, but for someone like me who's really never seen Anderson direct, I was just really thrown off by just how uninspired this really did feel, but also just how boring it really did feel. I don't think he did a very good job at keeping this interesting at all, and I just think his tones clashed a lot. It just didn't really seem like he knew what he wanted this movie to be, and I just don't think he did a very good job with the directing here. So yeah, I was very unimpressed with his directing in this film, but his screenplay especially, oh my god, I mean, clearly this film doesn't really have much of a story, and that's to be expected for a film like this, but Anderson really does not do a good job with setting this whole thing up, because, I mean, right off the bat, all of our characters here, first of all, they're very flat. Our main character, especially Milla Jovovich, there's really nothing to her. You know, we hear, like, a brief mention that, like, she's got someone back home that she's married to, and she's missing him, but that's really kind of it. There's not really much else to her. She just seems, like, very cunning, and while she's supposed to clearly not be used to this, it feels like she very quickly gets used to this very quickly. You know, it seems like she very quickly picks up on how she's supposed to navigate this situation, how she's supposed to survive, and it just doesn't really work for this character. There really just isn't very much to her at all. Same with the rest of her crew. There isn't much to them either. They're all just kind of they're all just kind of there. They're there. You know, they're in the army. They like to sing about being in the army. They like to joke around, and that's really kind of it. There just really is not a lot to any of the characters in the film. The only real characters I would say that have like some sort of like dimensions to them are Tony Jaa's character, the Hunter. He actually was really good, not just his performance, like I said, but I thought the character also was very well written, because you get the sense that he has been dealing with this for a while. You know, he comes from this other group that is way more used to this kind of thing, because they have monsters ravaging on their world all the time, and so he is very much prepared. He's always kind of thinking one step ahead, and I really did end up enjoying his character, and I thought the relationship he develops with Milla Jovovich, the bond that they form, was honestly really fun to watch. There's a language barrier, obviously, between the two, and the way that he communicates through things like chocolate or through just little things here and there, I thought was a lot of fun, and I definitely really did appreciate that when it came to this film. They actually did make an effort to develop that bond, and it ended up being the best thing about the movie, I think, is that you do actually buy into their chemistry throughout the film, and I do think they did a good job with that. That being said, the world building in this movie is extremely weak. I mean, we really don't get a sense of what either of these worlds are. We also just don't understand this whole portal thing. How does this work? How is it started? There's a lot of things that are very unclear to us. And of course, as usual, I have not played the video game that this film is based upon, but I guarantee that it's far more self-explanatory in that game than it is in this film, because here I was just very confused, especially when she goes through the portal. I was just having a very hard time understanding where she was, understanding what this world really is, understanding the difference between the two. It just, even at the end of the movie, like, I still was getting very confused as to what was going on, and I don't think they did a very good job with that. But it also is clear that the film just does not really have that much of a story, and I feel like it very much could have. You know, I don't think this needed to just be mindless action, because that's really all that it is, but the story is clearly not their focus here, and that would be fine if the action was good, which it's very much not. I mean, the action in this film is downright incomprehensible. The opening sequence especially. They are in this, like, very dark sort of setting, and the camera's, like, moving so quickly that I literally couldn't tell what the hell was going on. Like, I couldn't make out a single fucking thing in this scene because of the way that the camera was moving, and I don't think they did a very good job with that at all. I didn't like the way that certain scenes were, were filmed in that way. Just all the action here, it's clearly very throwaway. It's clear that there's no real, again, effort put into it, and it just really does show here. So I did not like the action at all in this movie. It also gets very repetitive very quickly. There's only so many times you can just watch Milla Jovovich, like, stabbing monsters or running away from monsters. It just gets very tiring, and I don't think they did a very good job of that. The creature designs as well just look very cheap here. None of the cinematography is very convincing. I will say there is one creature that we are introduced to briefly that didn't look too bad, but other than that, these monsters, they just look very CGI heavy, and not in a good way. They look like something you would see in, like, an early 2000s movie. They do not look like a movie from now, and again, it's because clearly Anderson just doesn't put a lot of effort into it. He doesn't really care about how they look. He just cares about what he wants to do, which again is fine if it was done well, but it's very much not, and I think that also really does hurt the film. I will say the score here by Paul Haslinger is actually not too bad. I actually did like the way that the score was done. It's kind of like this electronic, almost synthesizer type score, and I really liked it a lot. I thought it worked very well. It kind of set this film apart from, like, the others, and I did enjoy that. The editing, though, is so choppy here. This film is just constantly moving, constantly skipping through things. It's not very well paced. The third act especially was so messy to me. There were multiple points where I felt like this movie was ending, and it wasn't. And then once we get to the third act, it feels like, all right, we're done, and then the movie keeps going, and you start to get invested, and then you're like, wait, no, the movie's about to wrap up, and you don't want it to. And then what does it decide to do? It goes in, like, a sequel baity type direction where it just kind of ends. It just kind of ends at a point because, oh, we'll get a sequel. There's definitely going to be a sequel of this movie. There's not going to be a fucking sequel, not during a pandemic. That's not happening. So yeah, it's one of those kind of things where you can just tell there is no real effort put into this film. Overall, Monster Hunter is about as throwaway as you're really expecting it to be. It does admittedly have some good performances from Tony Jaa and Ron Perlman. It does have some occasionally okay ideas, but every single idea feels barely fleshed out. It has just very thinly sketched out characters. It has performances that leave a lot to be desired. It has action that is very hard to tell what is going on. A lot of quick cuts, a lot of shaky cam, all that kind of stuff that just really hurts this film overall. I will say this, if you like this kind of film, if you like what Paul W.S. Anderson does, you'll probably like this. But if you're looking for something different, it's really not going to impress you very much at all. And especially for someone like me who has never really seen what he's done before, I had no interest already, but especially after this film, I am not really interested in what Paul W.S. Anderson has to offer beyond this film, because clearly he just does not really care that much. Monster Hunter is the definition of just a really dumb action film, and I'm going to give it a D+. Before guys, to my review of Monster Hunter, the most guys saw this movie overall, left your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.